Hello there. What is going on, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about a ship that I can't stand, but I've been challenged with, and it's the Pelta for the Republic in Star Wars Armada. Whether you're looking at the transport frigate or the medical frigate, the Pelta class is one of those ships that I have gone on the record in the past saying it's the worst ship in the game, and I feel like that's probably a little bit exaggerated. And I'd like to refine that by saying it's my personal least favorite ship in the game. It's definitely a ship that I can't stand. I almost never run if I can help it. And usually I can express my opinions on this game with a lot more clarity, but I definitely struggle to explain exactly why I loathe this ship so much. And I'm going to try to do that and try to overcome that by doing a build with it, because I've been challenged to try to come up with a Pelta build, and I'm going to attempt to do that in this video. If you guys are new here to the channel, I am still doing another round of the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. If you want to have a chance to enter to win that, put that towards an expansion of your choice. All you have to do is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Plus, if you want to go ahead and click that bell for alerts, you can do that. Check out the social media links. Head over to Crabbok.com. We've got a great Armada AI system on there, as well as some homebrew expansions that I've created. If you're keen to that sort of thing. Anyway, lots of Armada content on Crabbok.com. It's all free, and if you jump on our Discord and keep the discussion going there as well, all those links and stuff, everything down below. Be sure you're subscribed and leave a comment. Let me know some of your thoughts on the Pelta, and also like if you see where I'm coming from, because I'm going to try to figure out and explain why I don't like this ship. So I think it's multifaceted. On one hand, I think in the back of my mind I'm comparing it to the Rebel Pelta, which it is similar in many ways. Not a lot of firepower, but a little tanky for a small ship. And I mean, I've talked about this ship in my breakdowns. I've talked about this ship before. I have a whole series of Armada ship breakdowns. And I think when I look at this, I'm kind of comparing it to the Rebel version of the Pelta, because the Rebel version at least had the fleet command, and we don't have that here. We're losing out on the fleet command. So in my head, I look at this on the surface and I say, well, if it doesn't have fleet command, what's the point? And it does have fleet support, but the fleet support options are just kind of okay. There's none that I really, really have to have. I could see running like Bomber Command Center in certain builds with it, and some things like that. But there's also other ways to get fleet support. You can you can put the Radiant. You can put the Radiant 7 upgrade on a consular and get fleet command even cheaper. Significantly cheaper. So I'm like, it's not exclusive for fleet support. It doesn't have fleet command, and it's slow. And so and I think in my mind, for a big part of it was, well, it's not as good as the consular, even though it's like apples to oranges. I think in my mind, I just look at it. I'm comparing it to the strengths of the consular without comparing the weaknesses of the consular. And when I do that, I see a ship that has less red dice on the sides than the consular. So at long range, it's less effective at shooting than the consular. At least the red dice version, right? And granted, the points are the same if you're comparing the cheaper Pelta. So the transport frigate is the same price as the more expensive consular, but the armed cruiser for the consular is also only 37 points compared to 45. So it's a little more expensive than the consular, offers a little bit less red dice at long range, and then doesn't have fleet command like the Rebel Pelta did. So I think that's kind of initially why I wasn't crazy about it. But I think there's another reason. And I think that other reason might be that this was the last ship for the Republic. And it wasn't flashy. It didn't really offer anything cool and new. It's just like, I think realistically, objectively, it's probably just a solid ship that's moderately capable for a fairly cheap price. It can do a little bit of a couple of different things. It's not exactly a jack of all trades, but it's kind of in the ballpark of a jack of all trades. It's just, it's got a little bit of dice. It's got a little bit of defensive options. If you're doing MSU, it could be a flagship because it's got the defensive retrofit on the transport frigate. It could do a lot of things, but it wasn't flashy. And I think part of me was thinking, well, this was the most recent, this is the last ship we might ever get for the Republic. For a while it seemed that way. Maybe that won't be true always, but as far as ship expansions, this is the last one FFG did. This is the last one to come out, and I think a big part of me wants to kind of not embrace this ship because I don't know. There's something about the Venator was new and flashy and cool and everything, and this one came. They were part of the same wave, but this one came out last, and I don't know. I think I resented it a little bit for being the last one and not really going out with a bang. It was the last one, but it was kind of like went out with a whimper. I'm like, so it didn't have that big flashy, nothing new and exciting about this one. Just it being, mediocre and to me, as how it seemed, made me kind of resent the ship. So all that being said, I think I've judged it too harshly. It is still a slow ship. It's only got a speed 2. Doesn't have a whole lot of fancy maneuverability tricks, but it does have 5 hull and a brace, so it's got some staying power. And if it can support your fleet, that's great. And I feel like when we come to build a list, I feel like Anakin Skywalker gives this guy a home in fleets that I like to run. Now, this is obviously makes for a good carrier. Or at least in a carrier fleet. The medical frigate has a squadron value of 2 at least. It came at a time where Republic was getting some carrier-centric commanders, and it can work that way. It can function, for squadrons, and I usually don't like to run too heavy on squadrons, so I usually like to run more heavy ship fleets, and for a long time I just didn't have a place. I would have rather just run more consulars that had more maneuverability and could double arc and overall just throw more dice from safety and all of that. So that was a big part of my reason. But what we're going to do, we're going to try and put this together and build a list. So I want to start out talking about what I want to do. I want to do an Anakin list with the Pelta. And I'm going to assume a couple of things in this list, and you can tell me. And it's going to be a flexible list because I will be building a squadron list, but there's room to finagle this list to run it with squadrons as well. There's a couple of different ways that you can run this. I'll give you like the bare bone pieces for this list, and I will be using the transport frigate version in this list, and there's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that it is cheaper, however, and so that is that's a big part of it. So let's go ahead and let's start adding some stuff. So I want to start with I'll start with a flagship, which will be Anakin. He's going to be on an acclimator 2. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add Anakin to the acclimator 2. One of the big reasons I like the acclimator 2 is it's got an extra die, and then you've got swivel mounts, so you can do very good things with this. It gives you that black die at long range, which Anakin is definitely going to want. Just a refresher on the new and improved version of Anakin. At 31 points, he says, while a friendly ship is attacking a ship, if the defender is at distance 1 to 5 of at least 2 other friendly ships, 1 other friendly ship at distance 1 to 5 of the defender may spend 1 defense token. If it does, the attacker may reroll up to 3 dice. The idea for this fleet is going to be that an acclimator has a really nice shot, including if they've concentrated fire, which they will, like potentially multiple black dice at long range, and this is going to give us rerolls. That's a very nice thing when you're trying to add dice, and we'll do that by having other ships flying with us that are also range 5 of the defender that can afford to spend defense tokens. So that's what we're going to be doing. And so this is Anakin by nature is a commander that wants multiple ships. He wants a lot of ships. He wants ships that are going to stay alive as well. Because if you only run 3 ships, as soon as one dies, Anakin doesn't do anything at all anymore. So you want more than 3 ships. And so I'm trying to take advantage of that and have good firepower and also a lot of ships and some staying power. And I think that's where one aspect that the Pelta will be able to complement this fleet and add some staying power to the fleet. Since this is my flagship, I do want a defensive retrofit on here. I'll put thermal shields on this ship, I'll go ahead and give it assault proton torpedoes. You could go with the concussion missiles or the proton torpedoes. For point's sake, I'm going with the proton torpedoes. They're exceptionally nice. And then we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to add gunnery team because that's it. That's what we want. We're going to have to add gunnery team. The idea here is that we concentrate fire, we attack. We've got, at long range even, we've got 3 red and a black, and then we use our concentrate fire to add another black. We've now got 5 dice at long range. We can re-roll 2 of them, or 3, well, both, we can re-roll 3 by spending another token that's somebody, maybe one of the Peltas or something else that's close by. And yeah, and be good to go there. So hopefully we'll get some black crits, and you have pretty good dice, pretty good chances of getting good dice when you have 3 re-rolls. So that's a good thing. So that's a good start. We're gonna run a second acclimator. This does assume that you've bought 2 of the starters, and this is a decision point because you can swap this out. You can swap this out for a Venator, perhaps, so that would be a little more expensive, and you have to make some other changes. You can swap this out for a lot of other things, or you can just add some squadrons as well. However, if you're going to add a lot of squadrons, you may not want gunnery teams on Anakin. You may not be doing concentrate fire as often. You may need tokens. You may need other ways to activate those squadrons. So think about that. But yes, we're going to run all of the same stuff without Anakin, but we are going to give this other one a title. We'll give this one Implacable. Now, if you are running squadrons, and I have other options to add a couple of squadrons, you may want to make one of these Navuta B. That's definitely an option. It'd be a nice way to make, give your squadrons a little extra punch. But we're not running a title on the flagship, where we're going to run Implacable here, and then it's a potential way for me to kind of save some shields off of Anakin, although I would imagine generally when I'm running this fleet, I'm going to have this ship here, the second one, the Implacable, being the lead ship. I want my flagship to be safe, so I have this one probably going towards the enemy a little faster and being maybe the spearhead, that first one to shoot, and keeping Anakin a little bit farther behind this one. However, things don't always work out the way I want, and maybe if I get out deployed, I may have to split up my fleet a little bit, and I might have my opponent kind of faking me out over here, and then they actually deploy stuff over here, and so there's always that chance that Anakin ends up taking fire first, and that's why for only 4 points, I give my flagship some extra survivability just in case. I like that. I mean, between thermal shields and Implacable, I think it's good survivability for Anakin on board the Acclimator. Doesn't give me a whole lot of options if a whole bunch of squadrons come in, but if you notice, both the Acclimator 2s run 2. They have double flak, which is kind of cool because you're going to notice a theme with this build. It's time to add our Peltas. We're going to add the Pelta class transport frigate. Now, the transport frigate also has double flak. Black, blue. You're going to notice a theme with this one. And we're going to run 2 of these, but I'll make them slightly different. I am going to keep the upgrades kind of light here because this guy is kind of a support ship. So yeah, we have some options. I'm going to give 1 Slicer Tools, which is a fun option. And then on our other Pelta transport frigate, we have a couple of options here. We've got, honestly, I think parts resupply is just a solid overall option. It's hard to go wrong with parts resupply. You could also run repair crews, depending on how you want to do it. You might not even need Slicer Tools, but Slicer Tools is in there for the big squadron ball. Slicer Tools is in there to, again, I'm not running any squadrons. I do need some squadron protection. Slicer Tools is there to disrupt the squadron commands, and is awfully good. So we'll go with parts resupply, but I think repair crews is definitely an option here. Or comms net is also always good. If if somebody else is potentially going to mess with your gunnery teams by messing with your dials. So all 3 of those are good options, but for now I'll go with parts resupply. It's kind of a good all-comers sort of upgrade. But there we go. So those are 2 Peltas. Both of those have double flak as well. So now I've got 4 ships already. This is looking pretty good for Anakin. I will say, I feel like you could easily drop one of these Peltas and make room for a couple of squadrons if you wanted to have a little bit of a screen. If you wanted to have 4, if you're trying to make room for like 3 or 4 squadrons, you could drop a ship. You can make that happen. But since I'm not running squadrons, I'm going to continue to move on. Now, I'm not going super heavy with the Peltas. I actually only own 2, and that's one of the things that kind of gives me some limitations. But I like the Consulars. Now, I'm not going to go with the Charger C70 here, and there was a reason for that. For one, the Consular Armed Cruiser is cheaper. It allows me to get more ships in the build. More activations are always a good thing. I can kind of stall and make sure Anakin's kind of moving last. My acclimators are moving last when I want them to. The Consular Armed Cruiser isn't going to last for too long, but it's a great ship to fund Anakin's token spending requirements. The Consular can also add tokens in and give rerolls to the Peltas that have the the red dice, so we can also do that. But also the Consular Armed Cruisers are double blue. They're very good flak ships. Again, my big weakness in this list is definitely going to be squadrons. And so the Consulars are going to be able to do that. Now, they aren't going to have red dice capabilities. You can make some changes. You could definitely mess around and put the C70s in there. That totally works. You sacrifice a little bit of flak by doing that, but it totally works. But if I add a second Consular Armed Cruiser, that takes me up to 399 points. And so that's kind of about all we can really do there. No, we don't need any upgrades on them. We've got 2 Peltas with a little bit of support, but most of our upgrades are on the acclimators, and those are going to be most of our big shooters. They each have gunnery teams, so they can do damage to multiple ships at once. So we do have an awful lot of firepower in this, and we can afford to lose ships and still make sure that Anakin's ability can work. So that's a very good thing. With parts resupply, too, we can make sure that these guys are getting engineer tokens even when they have to be doing concentrate fire. There's a lot of good things going on with this build. And so I think it could work. I think it could be pretty groovy and fun. As far as our upgrades, or I'm sorry, our objectives, we're going to go with, I'm going to go pretty standard here for a fleet like this that doesn't have squadrons. I'm going to go with advanced gunnery. I think that's a pretty much a no-brainer for this one. I'm sorry, not advanced gunnery. Opening salvo. Opening salvo is the no-brainer for this one. Hey, 2 extra black dice on all these ships with all of those rerolls? Yes, please. Absolutely. I'll go with fleet ambush. For my yellow, the big reason for fleet ambush is that I have no squadrons, and it takes away my opponent's squadron advantage for deployments. Does potentially put me at risk if my opponent wants to deploy his carriers very, very far forward, but in this case, that's where I'm hoping all the flak helps out, and maybe I can get slicer tools readied at the end of the first turn and activate early, and shut down some of that carrier potential before they can do too much damage, and then I can whittle them down with lots and lots of flak shooting, or just kill the carriers because I'm going to have a lot of firepower. So that's definitely one of the things I'm hoping to do there. And for the blue, I'll go with Solar Corona. That definitely makes up for the deployment disadvantage. And and stops those accuracies a little bit. Although I won't need the accuracies as much with the acclimators because of thermal shields, which can just completely wreck faces. But that's the build, guys. Let me know some of your thoughts. It's pretty simple, straightforward. 2 Consulars, 2 Peltas, and 2 acclimators. You can drop a ship and add squadrons. I mean, it's 6 ships. So that's a lot for Anakin. He doesn't need quite that many. You can easily do this with 4 or 5. 5 is probably what I'd recommend. 4 means once you lose one ship, you're now in like crisis mode. I can't lose another ship, And so I feel like, you could drop both Consulars if you wanted to, and just add a lot more squadrons. My fear there is I would struggle for activations. So it's a thing to think about because I kind of want the acclimators doing concentrate fire. And that's, and I'm just personally biased against squadrons to begin with. So yes, that is it for the list. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I was using Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder. Be sure to check out armada.ryankingston.com for that. I will thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. Always wash your socks and have a great day.